I didn't expect that night to change anything. It was supposed to be simple, a family dinner at a rented ocean house. The kind of place people book to pretend everything's still good between them. Big windows, overpriced furniture, the sound of waves, just loud enough to make silence feel less awkward. On paper, it was normal. In reality, something had already shifted before I even walked in. I remember standing outside for a second, hand on the door, just breathing. Not because I was nervous, at least not consciously, but because something in my gut felt off. You ever get that feeling? Like your body knows something your brain hasn't caught up to yet? Yeah, that I pushed the door open anyway. And the moment I stepped into the living room, everything slowed down. Conversations dipped. Not stopped, just dipped enough to notice. A couple people glanced at me, then quickly looked away. Someone forced a laugh that came half a second too late. That was the first signal. The second was Chloe, my wife, sitting on the couch. Too close to Mark. Not just casually close, not the kind you brush off with, they're just talking. No, this was different. Her body was angled toward him, knees turned in his direction like the rest of the room didn't exist. And Mark, he had his arms stretched along the back of the couch behind her. Not touching, but close enough that it didn't need to. That kind of closeness says more than contact ever could. And then there was the look. They weren't just talking, they were locked in. The kind of eye contact that doesn't happen by accident. The kind that comes from repetition, from comfort, from something already established. It hit me all at once. Not like a punch, more like a quiet click. Everything suddenly made sense. The late workouts that started happening 3 times a week, then 4. The way she'd tilt her phone away when I walked into the room. The new habit of muting notifications. The irritation, constant low-level irritation like my presence alone was exhausting her. And the worst part, the way she'd twist things. Every time I asked a question, it somehow became about me. My tone, my lack of trust, my overthinking, to the point where I started second-guessing myself, started wondering if I was the problem. But standing there watching them, that doubt disappeared because this wasn't in my head. This was real. Still, I didn't react. That's the part people don't understand when I tell this story. They expect anger, a scene, something explosive. But no, I felt calm, like everything had already happened and I was just catching up. So I smiled. Not a big smile, just enough to look normal. "Hey," I said, stepping further into the room, like I hadn't just walked into the middle of something I wasn't supposed to see. A few people responded. Quiet greetings, forced. Normally nobody looked at me for long. I started walking toward the couch, toward my seat, and that's when Mark stood up. Slow, intentional, like he'd been waiting for this exact moment. At first I thought he was just gonna move, maybe give me space, but then he stepped directly in front of me, close enough that I could smell the alcohol on his breath. And before I could even process what was happening, he slapped me. Sharp, loud, clean. Not hard enough to knock me down, but hard enough to echo. The entire room froze. No music, no talking, nothing, just that sound hanging in the air. I felt it a second later, the sting spreading across my cheek, the metallic taste creeping into my mouth. Nobody moved, nobody said anything. I looked at him, really looked, and he was smiling. Not nervously, not awkwardly, confident, like he'd just proven something. Then, without a word, he turned, walked past me, and sat down in my seat, right next to my wife, like I didn't exist, like I'd never existed. That was the part that hit harder than the slap. Not the disrespect, the certainty. He was comfortable doing that. Comfortable enough to not even look back. I slowly turned my head toward Chloe because surely this was the moment something would break. She'd say something, react, stand up, at least look uncomfortable, anything. But she didn't. She didn't move, didn't flinch, didn't even look surprised. Instead, she sighed like this was inconvenient for her. "Ryan," she said, her voice flat, almost tired. "You're misunderstanding everything." For a second, I thought I misheard her. Then I laughed. Not loud, not dramatic, just a quiet, disbelieving exhale. "Misunderstanding," I repeated. She crossed her arms, leaning slightly closer to Mark. Subtle, but impossible to miss once you were looking for it. "This is exactly what I mean," she said. "You always twist things. You always assume the worst." I stared at her at them and something inside me settled. No anger, no confusion, just clarity, because they had no idea. No idea how much I already knew. No idea how long I'd been watching. No idea how prepared I was for this exact moment. So instead of arguing, instead of defending myself, I just smiled. "Yeah," I said quietly, "maybe I do." Mark let out a short laugh under his breath, shaking his head like I was pathetic. Chloe rolled her eyes and slowly the room started breathing again. People shifted. Someone cleared their throat. A conversation tried to restart in the background like the moment had passed, but it hadn't. Not even close. Because about 2 minutes later, Mark tried to stand up again, and that's when everything started to fall apart. Mark tried to stand up again. At first it was subtle, just a shift in posture, the kind you wouldn't notice unless you were already watching closely. His hand pressed against the armrest like he was about to push himself up. His shoulders tensed slightly. That same smug expression still sitting on his face, like he owned the room now, like he'd already won. But then something didn't look right. He paused just for a second. His brow tightened almost imperceptibly, like his body didn't respond the way he expected it to. He tried again, this time putting more weight into it, and that's when his hand slipped. Not dramatically, just enough to throw him off balance for a split second. He caught himself, but the movement was clumsy, off. The kind of movement you don't see from someone who's fully in control. I tilted my head slightly, watching, waiting because I knew what was coming. Mark let out a short laugh, trying to play it off. "Damn," he muttered, shaking his hand like it had fallen asleep. "Must have sat weird." No one responded. A couple people exchanged glances, but nobody said anything out loud. That same uncomfortable silence was creeping back in, slow and heavy. Chloe leaned toward him slightly. "You okay?" she asked, her voice quieter now. Not cold like before, but concerned. That shift didn't go unnoticed. Mark nodded quickly. Yeah, I'm good." He wasn't. He tried to stand again. This time, his leg didn't cooperate. His knee buckled halfway up, forcing him to grab the edge of the couch to keep from falling forward. The movement was sharper now, less controlled. His breathing changed just slightly, but enough that you could hear it if you were paying attention. And now, people were paying attention. "What's wrong with him?" someone whispered from across the room. Mark's jaw tightened. "I said, I'm fine," he snapped a little too aggressively. But his voice didn't carry the same confidence anymore. There was something underneath it now. Uncertainty. He tried again, slower this time. Careful, deliberate. But the moment he pushed himself up, his balance gave out completely. He made it halfway to standing before his body tilted sideways, forcing him to stumble back down onto the couch. Not graceful, not controlled, just failing. The room went quiet again. Not awkward, quiet. Focused, quiet. Everyone watching, everyone waiting for an explanation that wasn't coming. Chloe sat up straighter now, her eyes scanning his face. "Mark," she said softer this time. He didn't answer right away because now he was trying to move his hand again, flexing his fingers. Slow, delayed, like there was a disconnect between what he wanted to do and what his body was actually doing. That's when the panic started to show. Not fully, but enough. "What the hell?" he muttered under his breath. I took a step forward, not fast, not aggressive, just enough to enter the center of the room. And for the first time since I walked in, every single person was looking at me. Not him, me. Because something about my expression didn't match the situation. I wasn't confused. I wasn't surprised. I wasn't reacting at all. I was just watching, calm. Chloe noticed it too. Her eyes snapped to me, narrowing slightly. "What's going on?" she asked. I didn't answer immediately. I let the silence stretch, let the tension build. Let everyone sit in that uncomfortable space where something is clearly wrong, but nobody understands why yet. Mark tried to stand one more time, and this time he couldn't. His arm gave out completely. He collapsed back into the couch, breathing heavier now, his movements slow and uncoordinated. "What's wrong with me?" he said, louder now. Not to anyone specific, just out loud. No one had an answer except me. I reached into my pocket, pulled out my phone, unlocked it slowly, deliberately. The small click of the screen lighting up sounded louder than it should have in that silence. Chloe stood up. Not toward me, toward him. "Mark, sit still," she said quickly, panic starting to creep into her voice. "Maybe your blood sugar or something." "It's not that," I said, calm, flat. And that's what made everyone freeze. Because it wasn't just what I said, it was how I said it, like I already knew. Chloe turned toward me slowly. "What?" she asked. I held her gaze, then looked down at Mark, who was now struggling just to keep himself upright, his head slightly tilted, his coordination slipping further with every second. Then back to her. "It's not random," I said. Silence, the kind that presses in on your ears. "What are you talking about?" she asked, sharper now. I took a step closer, just enough, and raised the phone slightly. "You really think I'd walk into this blind?" That landed hard. Her expression shifted, not fully, but enough. Confusion mixed with something else, something closer to fear. Mark tried to speak again, but his words came out slower now, slightly slurred. Ryan, what did you... I didn't let him finish. I've been watching, I said, still calm. For a while. The room felt smaller, like the walls had moved in. Nobody interrupted, nobody moved, because now it wasn't about him anymore. It was about me and whatever I was about to say next. Chloe shook her head slightly. No, she said quickly. No, you're being dramatic again. This is exactly what I was talking about. I tapped the screen. The sound cut through her sentence, and I turned the phone outward. Not fully yet, just enough that she could see. Her eyes flicked down and everything changed. The color drained from her face. Not slowly, instantly, because she recognized it before I even said a word. The color drained from her face instantly. Not confusion, not denial, recognition. That's how I knew I didn't even need to explain it yet, because she already understood what she was looking at. Her lips parted slightly, but no words came out for the first time since I walked into that house. Chloe didn't have a response ready, didn't have something to twist, didn't have control. What is that? Someone asked from behind her. But nobody stepped closer. Nobody wanted to get involved anymore, because now it wasn't just uncomfortable. Now it was something else, something real. I turned the phone outward a little more. Not fully, just enough for the people closest to see. A paused video, grainy, dim lighting. Hotel room, 2 figures, unmistakable. Mark shifted on the couch, trying to focus his eyes. What is that? He mumbled, his voice slower now, heavier. I looked at him, then back at Chloe. You tell them, I said quietly. She shook her head immediately. No, she said, this is insane. You're taking things out of context again. I almost smiled because there it was. The script, the same one she'd been using for months. Only now it didn't land because everyone could see it. That tiny delay before she spoke. The way her voice tightened just a little too much. The way she didn't look at the screen again. Guilt doesn't hide well under pressure, especially not this kind. I tapped the screen again. The video started playing. No sound at first, just movement, enough to make it obvious. A few people in the room leaned in and then immediately leaned back like they wished they hadn't. Oh, someone whispered. That one word said everything. Chloe stepped forward quickly, reaching for my phone. Stop, she said sharply. Turn that off right now. I pulled it back before she could touch it. No, I said, still calm, still steady, and that's what made her panic spike. Ryan, stop it, she said louder now. You're humiliating yourself. That almost made me laugh. Am I asked, and for the first time my voice carried just a little edge. I turned the screen slightly toward the rest of the room, not aggressively, not dramatically, just enough for the truth to exist in the open. Mark let out a strained breath, trying to push himself up again. His body didn't cooperate. His arm shook under his own weight, barely holding him upright. What did you do? He said, his words slurring more now. There it was. Finally, not denial, not confidence, fear. I looked at him for a second, really looked, then back at Chloe. You told him? I asked. She froze. That tiny pause. That was all I needed. No. I nodded slowly. Yeah, I didn't think so. What are you talking about? She snapped, but her voice wasn't steady anymore. Not even close. I slipped the phone back into my pocket. Not because I was done, because I didn't need it anymore. The damage was already done. You've been careful, I said, almost conversational now. I'll give you that. Burner apps, deleted messages, scheduling around my work. I took another step forward. Smart. The room was completely silent now. Nobody interrupting, nobody defending, because this wasn't speculation anymore. This was unraveling. Chloe shook her head again, but slower this time. You're paranoid, she said. This is exactly why you needed a backup plan. I cut in that hit hard. Her expression cracked for just a second. Mark's head turned toward her. Slow, heavy. Back up, he repeated, struggling with the word. And that's when everything shifted. Because now it wasn't just me versus them. Now it was them versus each other. Chloe noticed it too. Her eyes flicked to him, then back to me. Don't do this, she said quickly. That was new. Not anger, not blame, urgency. Which meant she knew exactly what I was about to say next. You didn't tell him about the other one, did you? I said the words landed like a drop into still water. Quiet, but the ripple, immediate. Mark blinked, slow, confused. What other one? He asked. Chloe's head snapped toward him. Mark, don't listen to him. But it was too late. Because doubt had already entered the room. And once that happens, you don't get it back. I tilted my head slightly, watching them, watching her try to calculate, to recover, to control the situation again. But the timing was off now. Too many variables, too many eyes. I continued calmly, you did promise him you were leaving me, right? Mark's breathing changed. Subtle, but there. "You said you were," he muttered, his voice unsteady. Chloe stepped closer to him now, like proximity could fix this. "Mark, listen to me. And you told him I was the problem?" I added. Her voice cut off instantly. I kept going. "That I was controlling, paranoid, that you were stuck." Mark's eyes moved between us, slower now, struggling to process. "But you didn't mention," I said, "that you were telling someone else the exact same thing." Silence. Heavy, thick, unavoidable. "What?" Mark said just that one word, but it carried everything. Chloe didn't answer. Couldn't, because this time there wasn't a version of the story she could twist fast enough. And for the first time all night, she looked at me not with anger, not with superiority, but with something much closer to fear. And that's when I knew this part. This was just the beginning. The silence didn't break, it cracked. You could feel it like something invisible snapping right down the middle of the room. Mark stared at Chloe, not blinking, not speaking, just staring, waiting, because now it wasn't about me anymore. Now it was about her, and whether she could lie fast enough to fix this. She couldn't. "Mark," she said, stepping closer to him, her voice softer now, controlled, careful. "He's twisting things, you know how he is. That would have worked before, maybe even a week ago, but not now, not with everything already hanging in the air." Mark's head tilted slightly like his brain was lagging behind reality. "You said he started then stopped, tried again. You said you were done with him." I watched her face, that micro expression, the one she couldn't control. Annoyance, not guilt, not regret. Annoyance because now she had to manage him too. "I am done," she said quickly. "I told you that this is just him trying to, then who's the other guy?" I didn't raise my voice, I didn't interrupt loudly. I just placed it there, right between them like a fact. And this time, she didn't even try to answer right away. That hesitation that was louder than anything she could have said. Mark blinked again, slower. "What other guy?" he repeated, but now there was something else in his voice. Not confusion anymore, something heavier. Something closer to realization. Chloe turned toward me sharply. "Stop talking," she said, low and sharp. "You're making things worse." I let out a small breath, almost amused. "Worse," I repeated. "No, Chloe, I'm just making it visible." That hit harder than anything else I'd said because she knew it was true. Everything she'd been doing only worked in the dark, and right now there was nowhere left to hide. I reached into my pocket again, slow, deliberate, pulled my phone back out. This time I didn't hesitate. I unlocked it. Tapped once, then turned the screen outward fully. A different screen, not a video. Messages. Clear, organized. Names, dates, timestamps. 3 separate threads. 3 different people. Same pattern, same language, same promises. "I miss you. I just need a little more time. He doesn't understand me. I'm going to fix everything soon." Mark leaned forward slightly, squinting at the screen. His breathing got heavier, faster. "You said," he muttered again, but the words didn't finish because now he could see it. Not just hear it, see it. Chloe stepped forward quickly again. "Give me that," she snapped, reaching out. I stepped back just enough. Not aggressive, just out of reach. "No," I said. Her composure cracked fully this time. "Ryan, stop this right now," she said, louder than before. "You're embarrassing yourself." That made a couple people shift uncomfortably, but no one defended her. Not anymore, because now everyone knew. I tilted my head slightly. "Still trying that angle?" I asked quietly. That did it. Her face tightened, jaw clenched, eyes sharper now. Not defensive, not apologetic, cornered. "And that's when people show who they really are." "You think this makes you look strong?" she snapped. "You stand in here like this? You're pathetic." There it was, the shift from control to attack. I didn't react, didn't flinch because I'd already seen this version of her before, just never this openly. Mark let out a weak laugh, not amused. "Broken. Wow," he said under his breath. Chloe turned toward him immediately. "Mark, don't." "Don't what?" he cut in. His voice wasn't strong, his body still barely cooperating, but the tone different. "You lied," he said. Simple, direct, no confusion left. Chloe shook her head quickly. "No, I didn't." "You lied," he repeated. And this time she didn't have anything ready, because now it wasn't about controlling the narrative, it was about surviving it. I slid the phone back into my pocket again because I didn't need it anymore. The room had already decided. You could feel it. That subtle shift the way people looked at her now. Not neutral, not unsure, they knew. And more importantly, she knew they knew. I stepped back slightly. creating space. Not because I was done, but because this wasn't mine anymore. This was theirs. Mark tried to stand again, and this time he barely made it halfway before collapsing back down harder than before. A couple people moved instinctively now. Hey, sit him up. Is he okay? Call someone. The panic finally spread, but not toward me. Toward him. Chloe turned fully toward Mark now, grabbing his arm. Mark, stay with me, she said quickly, her voice shifting again. Urgency, fear, real fear. Not for the situation, for control slipping completely away. He looked at her, eyes unfocused. You said, he muttered again like his brain was stuck on that loop. You said it was just us. She didn't answer. Couldn't, because there was no version of the truth left that worked. I took one last look at them, at her, at the situation. And for the first time all night, I felt nothing. No anger, no satisfaction, just clarity. Because this wasn't chaos. This wasn't revenge. This was exposure. And there's a difference. I turned slightly, glancing around the room, everyone watching, everyone silent, everyone understanding exactly what just happened. Then I looked back at Chloe and gave her the same calm expression I walked in with. You should probably focus on him, I said. Not sarcastic, not cold, just factual. Then I stepped back and let everything else collapse on its own. The room didn't recover, not really. People moved, sure. Voices came back, someone grabbed water. Someone else pulled out their phone, probably debating whether to call for help or just stand there and pretend this wasn't happening. But the energy, it stayed broken. Mark was slumped awkwardly against the couch now, one arm hanging uselessly at his side, while two people tried to keep him upright. His head kept tilting forward like he couldn't fully hold it up anymore. Hey, stay with me, man, one of them said, tapping his cheek lightly. Mark blinked slowly, like even that took effort. I'm fine, he muttered. He wasn't. Everyone could see it now. Chloe was kneeling beside him, one hand gripping his arm, the other hovering near his face like she didn't know what to do with it. Mark, look at me, she said quickly. Stay awake. Okay. Her voice had completely changed. Gone was the cold confidence. Gone was the control. Now it was panic. Real panic. And that contrast that was louder than anything else in the room. Because just minutes ago she was calling me paranoid. Now she couldn't even hold a sentence steady. I stayed where I was, near the edge of the room, watching, not involved. Because this part wasn't for me. This was the consequence phase. Did he drink too much? Someone asked. No, he barely had anything, another replied. Then what is this? No one had an answer. At least no one except me. Chloe's eyes flicked up to me just for a second, but that was enough because now she knew. Not suspected, not guessed, knew. And I could see the exact moment it clicked. The way her expression shifted, not fully, not openly, but underneath everything else. Fear, not for Mark, for herself. What did you do? She asked. Quiet, low, careful, so no one else would hear it clearly. But I did. Of course I did. I tilted my head slightly, still misunderstanding everything. I asked. Her jaw tightened. Ryan, she said under her breath, forcing calm into her tone. This isn't funny. I didn't respond right away, just looked at her. Let the silence stretch again, because silence had become my strongest tool in that room. Finally, I said, just loud enough for her, I didn't do anything you didn't plan first. That hit. Not visibly, not dramatically, but internally. You could see it in her eyes because she knew exactly what I meant. The planning, the messages, the conversations about handling me, the way they thought they were ahead. She swallowed, then looked away quickly, like even eye contact with me was too much now. Help me get him up, she said suddenly to the others, louder now. We need to get him outside. And just like that, she tried to shift control back. Redirect the situation. Focus everyone on him. It almost worked. People moved again, adjusting their grip on Mark, trying to lift him carefully, but his body didn't cooperate. His legs dragged slightly, unsteady, unreliable. Careful, careful. I've got him, watch his head. The room turned into motion, but underneath it, still tension, still questions, still the weight of everything that had just been exposed. As they moved him toward the door, Mark's head tilted again, his eyes landing on me. And for a second, everything else disappeared. No noise, no people, just that look, confused, betrayed, trying to piece things together. You, he said slowly, like he was reaching for something he couldn't quite grab. I held his gaze, didn't move, didn't react, because whatever he was realizing, it was already too late. Chloe noticed it. Of course she did. Don't talk, she said quickly, tightening her grip on him. Save your energy. But that wasn't why she said it, and we both knew it. They got him to the door, struggled for a second, then finally managed to get him outside. Cool air, space, distance, the kind of things people use to convince themselves a situation is under control. A few others followed, some out of concern, some out of curiosity, some just to get out of that room. Within seconds, the living room felt emptier, quieter, but not lighter. Never lighter. I stayed inside, leaning slightly against the wall now, hands relaxed, breathing steady, because for the first time that night, I didn't have to do anything else. It was already done. A couple people remained. They avoided looking at me. Not out of hostility, out of uncertainty, because now they didn't know where they stood. And honestly, I didn't care. After a minute or two, Chloe came back in alone. She closed the door behind her slowly, and the moment it clicked shut, everything changed again. No audience, no distractions, just us. She stood there for a second, back against the door, breathing heavier than before. Then she walked toward me, not fast, not slow, controlled, measured, stopping a few feet away. "What did you give him?" she asked. No anger now, no performance, just direct. I looked at her, really looked, and for the first time in a long time, I saw her clearly. Not the version I married, not the version she pretended to be, just her. "You're worried about the wrong thing," I said. Her eyes narrowed slightly. "No," she replied quietly. "I'm worried about exactly the right thing." That almost made me smile. Almost. "Are you?" I asked. She crossed her arms, but it wasn't defensive anymore. It was stabilizing, like she was holding herself together. "Ryan," she said, her voice lower now, more controlled than it had been all night. "Whatever you think you're doing right now, this isn't going to end the way you think." There it was, a shift again. Not panic, not denial, a warning. And for the first time since this started, she wasn't talking to the room. She was talking directly to me. I took a small step forward, closing the distance just slightly. "Yeah," I said quietly. It already ended. That landed deep because she felt it. The finality, not anger, not revenge, just done. And for a brief second, something cracked in her expression. Not guilt, not regret, loss of control, which for her was worse than anything else. Outside, I could hear voices, someone saying they were calling for help, someone else asking questions. The world was catching up. But inside that room, it was already over. She looked at me for a long moment, like she was trying to figure out if there was anything left to salvage. There wasn't. And I think she finally realized that because her shoulders dropped slightly. Not dramatically, just enough. Then she nodded. Once slow, like she was accepting something she didn't like. "Okay," she said quietly. Just that. No argument, no denial, no performance. And somehow that was the loudest moment of the night. I didn't stay much longer after that. The noise outside grew louder. Voices, confusion, someone trying to take control of a situation that was already out of control. But for me, everything had gone quiet. I grabbed my keys without rushing. No one stopped me. No one asked questions because deep down, everyone knew exactly what had just happened, even if they didn't understand all of it. As I stepped outside, I saw Mark sitting on the steps, barely upright, 2 people beside him. Chloe stood nearby, talking quickly, trying to manage the narrative again. She glanced at me, just once. No anger this time. No superiority, just calculation. I didn't react. I walked past them, got into my car, and drove. For the first time in months, my mind wasn't racing. It was clear, because the truth wasn't hidden anymore, and neither was she. I didn't go home that night. I checked into a small place off the highway, somewhere quiet enough to think. My phone buzzed almost immediately. Chloe, call after call, then messages. "We need to talk. This isn't what it looks like. Ryan, answer me." I didn't respond. Not because I didn't have anything to say, but because for the first time, I didn't need to say anything. An hour later, a new message came through. "Mark," short, simple. "You didn't know everything." I stared at it for a long time. Then another message followed. "She lied to me too." And just like that, the last piece fell into place. This wasn't a mistake. It wasn't even just betrayal. It was a pattern, and patterns don't change, they repeat. I put the phone down, leaned back, and made my decision. I wasn't fixing this. I was ending it.